Meeting. Yeah, okay, got it. Yes, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to this session, very, very special session on the International Day of the Older Person. Okay, we are honored to have Ms. Geeta Ramanujam here with us. But before we begin, I'd like to give a short, brief introduction of the organization ASLI, which is hosting it. One line about myself, and then we talk, and I will then introduce our speaker and storyteller that everybody must be so anxiously waiting to hear just now. So ASLI is the Association of Senior Living. It is a national organization which was formed with a vision to catalyze the growth and development of the elder care sector. And the prime objective has been to create a platform to bring all the stakeholders together in the care continuum and to draw knowledge and learn best practices from each other. So on this day, ASLI would like to, is hosting this event. My name is Moninita Sarkar. I'm the founder of Unmukh Senior Hub. And I've been here in this space many times before, and with Ms. Ramanujam, yes, before when she has spoken at Unmukh, and it's always been an incredible experience, I mean, you sometimes think, hey, what are we doing? Are we going to listen to a children's story or something? But the deep philosophy, we really need to get into that listening space, okay? And why? And just very, very briefly, why we are here, because we are here today on account of the International Day of the Older Person. And now for our speaker. Geeta Ramanujam is an internationally renowned storyteller, master trainer, educator, author, and academician who wears many hats. She's a 3-time TEDx speaker, Ashoka Fellow, and a pioneer of the storytelling movement in India. Geeta is the founder of Kathalayar's International Academy of Storytelling since 1998 in Bangalore. Kathalayar is the only credible and globally recognized academy of storytelling in the world, with affiliations to the US, Scotland, Sweden, beg your pardon. Kathalayar completes 25 years in the storytelling field. Geeta has traveled widely to 48 countries and 27 states in India to establish storytelling as a tool of learning and also to set up storytelling centers. She has trained over 93,000 people, so 93,491. That's a big number. Geeta ji, we are waiting for the 1 lakh mark. She's trained so many people in the field of storytelling. Geeta has performed and trained people at the Scottish Storytelling Center, UK, Norway, Germany, Japan, Singapore, Thailand, South Africa, Austria, Greece, Istanbul, Sweden, Poland, USA, Sri Lanka, and recently the Boca Juco Festival in Brazil. Geeta has authored several books, the recent one being Tales from Around the World. This has been published by Penguin. Geeta is the Indian coordinator for the International Storytelling Network, RIC. Besides being the Indian coordinator of the Indian Storytelling Network, she has several awards to her credit. The recent international award for the best storyteller at Boca do Sul, I beg, my pronunciation, Geeta ji, it's okay. Yes, Storytelling Festival at Brazil, and the Governor's Award in Tamil Nadu for the best story narrator. She was also recognized and mentioned by our Prime Minister, Shri Modi ji, in the Man Ki Baat program. And she has twice been conferred the title of Bangalore Hero in Karnataka. So, it's an immense privilege, Geeta ji, to have you with us today. And I really look forward because I know, we're going to be enthralled. So on this very special day, once again, thank you for joining us. at ASLI, and I hope that all our listeners are across the platforms. And welcome, and over to you.
Thank you, Momita, and what a wonderful feeling, first of all, to be associated. And I'm honored that you thought of me for the Senior Citizens Day. It's important that we touch lives, isn't it? And I think one of the ways is because wealth is not a problem. Most of the people are quite okay by the time they reach this age. And there is something but within us which is always probably craving for peace, to connect to our source. And there is something amiss which we're all looking for. And I think it all evaporates and comes to a form as we become younger, should I say?
That's a good one.
And I think thoughts also start getting younger, and they try to, like a monkey, try to, push you from within. And so I'm very happy to be invited today, Momita. So just a little request is, would you be focusing the screen, or should I do it on my thing? The speaker view?
It's on speaker view. The host is already.
You're on speaker view.
Okay, fine. Yeah, because I can't see it, but that's okay, fine. Yeah, sure. Okay, great. So, should I begin? And
yes, please.
Miss Gallery. All right. So, many people at this, the first question that they ask me is, how did you become a storyteller? Or what prompted you to take storytelling as a profession, isn't it? Because during our times, either you had to become a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, and there were not too many options available. Neither was storytelling available, and storytelling is not available today also. It's not still picked up by many people as a profession, mainly because of a lot of constraints, like would I be able to make a living out of it? Can I tell stories and earn money? Can I earn a decent living? Is what most people get scared about when they have to choose storytelling as a profession. Well, I would say that was not my goal when I said I want to do storytelling. There is something in the air. I feel, the air is made of pure light. When we see as white light, isn't it? But you know that when you look deeper, it has 7 strands or 7 colors. It is made up of these 7 colors. And these 7 colors unite to make it pure white. And that's what we see. And we believe in this apparent truth that we are surrounded by white light and there are no colors. And so, who looks at the hidden things? Maybe there is a purpose. I felt that some strand, one color probably rises from there and comes before you as a profession, and says, have you explored me? And that's what happened to me. So there are certain things that are very mysterious and they are hidden somewhere. And probably the sensitive soul may be able to feel, touch, smell, and recognize that color and recognize that consciousness which is trying to tell you something. And I feel today when I reflect, this is perhaps what happened to me about 25 years ago. Because, you never can say, this is the moment exactly that I said, I want to be a storyteller. Some things happen to you. And when the body is sensitive, and we grasp something which is coming our way, like the radio signals, then it becomes part of you. And that's what happened to me when I was just a teacher and librarian. And I had no great aspirations. And I was trying to make a concept interesting because, children were sitting in the class, I mean, they're not interested after 40 minutes and 40 minutes and 40 minutes of science, maths, history, social science. So the attention span is very little. We are just gathering information. And that's when I thought that, how do I wake up the enthusiasm? How do I motivate somebody to learn? Because I also felt that I could empathize with them. I was concerned. I would say caring, and the caring and concern goes into compassion after a while, isn't it? And I was feeling for these children. What are they going to go out in the world and become? How will they assimilate what we have taught them in a school? How do you make this interesting for them? And when you see their faces and they're drooping and they're not interested. And that's when I felt maybe if I tell a story, it might, kind of wake them up, at least for a little while. I won't say it is the method, but it was one of the methods that came to my mind. And probably that was also because I grew up with stories, that we didn't have too much technology, and that's how I think we're very fortunate. Not too many choices, just going to discourses and probably going to movies and social outings. So my parents in Bombay, I remember still getting into a bus, going and visiting people on weekends. The October Navaratri was there even then. Diwali was there even then. And all these holidays celebrating together, going and visiting people, all this was fun. And listening to their stories, the older people telling stories. And when I went to movies and I went to discourses, I would come and imitate all those people. And I didn't know that I had this little talent in me. So, children were just playing in the outside when Swami Chimyananda was on the loudspeaker. And as we were playing, things fell on our ears. And I remember still him saying, ego and egocentric desires, So I used to come and emote that at home. And when I used to see movies, I used to come and imitate the actors and actresses sometimes. Badtameez kahin ka, idiot kahin ka, like Asha Parekh or Dr. Dolittle or a cartoon. I think I saw another booty cat, So all these, I think, added as I think let go. I think that's an important part that I realized, that as long as we hold and we feel inhibited and we feel that how will I look if I talk in a baby voice? How will I look if I roar like a lion? So what will children think of me? What will people think of me? So if I start looking at it that way, then I can never tell a story. But then I said, I should let them see the story. And that's when I think you lose your consciousness at that moment. You lose your complete self, and you listen to your listeners. And that's when I started roaring like a lion. And I said, yeah, I am that witch, I can smell you, things like that. And when I saw the children really enjoying, happy, I said, perhaps this is what I have to do. Perhaps this is my calling. And that's how one day I just stepped out. Nothing was easy. I said, I know what I have to be. I am going to be a storyteller. So that's how I became a storyteller. And then, of course, when you have a building, you have the cement and the tiles and the first floor and the second floor, everything. So it was a step by step. And at each step, You probably have the rains, you probably have a little destruction, you have obstacles, and then it took a while to build the storytelling because I had to adapt the storytelling slowly to training adults in storytelling. And that's how I think I tell more stories to adults now than I tell to children, because I think teaching them how to fish was more important than just giving them a fish. Yeah, so that's what I do these days. So through my academy, I train people in the art of storytelling. And that is my story in brief. Yeah. So uh, now coming to what story to tell, it's always a problem for me to decide, because sometimes, when you know a lot of stories and when you have to tell people, thank you, Moni, that you're there, because I need an audience also to be able to tell that story. So I think it's good that you're there on the screen. I'm happy because I can at least see somebody's expression. Right.
And I'm with you totally, as you can see.
So I was thinking, should I tell the story of Krishna, or should I tell the story of the Northern Star? So, there are different kinds of stories, the West and the East and the Oriental stories, some sad, some happy, some in between, some of transformation. So I was wondering what story to tell. So what would you like, Moni, to listen to?
Something about transformation, maybe.
Okay, great. So,
yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. So when I think of transformation, there are a lot of stories that we have of transformation, especially if you would listen to read A.K. Ramanujam's folk tales and other stories. You will find that in the Oriental places, there is like we have vahanas, right? The vahans. You will find a lot of animals. You'll find a marriage between a girl and a peacock, or these kind of things happen in which is very symbolic. And if you look at old civilizations, you'll find a lot of these happening. That Medusa has a hair full of snakes, and Bellerophon is a flying horse, and things like that. So a lot of myths and symbols that come, and then the transformation happens. So one of the stories is from the Garo tribes. You find this still very prevalent in the tribal areas. So I just returned from Tripura, by the way, and it's a beautiful place. And I'm so glad that when I went to one of the museums over there, they have a lot. The person called, I think his name was Biju, and he said that, and he said that there were more than 120 tribes, and there are still, and they have tried to conserve about 75% of the land, because I found a lot of greenery in Tripura. And I was so happy about it, because I think it makes a lot of difference when you see greenery and that also being preserved. So I think that was beautiful. And he sang some songs and he told us stories. So one of the things they have is a wax museum, which is very beautiful, where they have these statues of all the tribes, and they've named it. So one of them is the Garo tribe, and this is a story from there. It will extend into another story though. So very briefly, I'm going to tell you the Garo tribe story, because here the tribal people, if you notice, they are very matriarchal still. There are many matriarchal tribes still. And so you will find sometimes the woman walking ahead and the man walking behind too. So love is also equally, they ask. In fact, one of the tribes, they allow the man to live with the woman, and if she doesn't like him, he can go back, and she can refuse to marry him. So that was how our society was. And in still some parts of India, we still have that. So here is one of those where it was matriarchal, and so love had to be expressed. So this man gets on top of a hill and he calls out, because they're full of hills, and there is a woman on the other side of the hill, and he sings a song. Hayo hasdi rutu bina ja. Hayo hasdi rutu bina ja. And she answers from the other mountain, from the other hill. O cha koi lo tu bina ja. O ja koi lo tu bina ja. And then she's trying to tell him that, why are you hiding behind this tree and singing to me? And he says, the tree is hiding me. I'm not hiding behind the tree. So I want to say I love you, but it's this tree that is coming in front of me. Okay, and they fall in love, and she has no parents, and there's just a grandmother at home, and she wants to get married to him. The grandmother looks at him up and down and says, would you be the right suitor? And she says, maybe you'll have to live for a while in my place and then we'll see. So after a while, it is agreed that both will get married. And so she says, I'm going to give something to my grandchild, which is our treasure. It's a hereditary treasure, and this is what I'm going to give. And it is during this October festival season of the Navratri that you have to get married. So he says, all right. So the marriage takes place, and it's very simple. It's just a bamboo pandal that they call. And there are 7 colors of the rainbow, like a pandal that is put. And he's dressed up in blue, and she's dressed up in white. And this is again very strange, because they emote a lot of birds. Birds, you will see the male more showy than the women. You know, the women bird, the female birds are not so attractive as the males. So then they get married, and then she gives a beautiful shawl to this granddaughter, saying that this has come from great grandmother to the generations. And so there are 2 things that you have to remember when I give you this shawl. And she says, what is it, grandma? And she says, every time the season changes, I'm giving you in a casket, in a bamboo casket. You will open that casket, you will remove the shawl, and you will, just dust it a bit and fold and put it back. But see that your husband doesn't see what you're doing. He should not see this. So she agrees, and they get married, and they have a beautiful life. There's a lovely sea and river nearby, and he is a fisherman. So he goes to fish every day, comes back. Very simple, pleasant life. And the season slowly changes. And then it's becoming hot, and he's away. And she says, yes, I remember what my grandmother said. She removes that multicolored shawl and, just dusts it and folds, puts it back in the chest. He returns, and from the distance, far away, he's very sensitive. He thinks he saw something very colorful. But he's a fine gentleman. He doesn't ask his wife, because he knows that she would have shared it with him if she wanted. So he doesn't ask anything. He just carries on with his life. And now there's the breeze, the wind that's blowing, and he's gone away fishing. It's very difficult. The boat is rocking. He's not able to fish, and woo, woo, howling winds. And she decides, just as the wind is beginning, that it's going to be terrible now. It's increasing, and she thinks it's the right time to take the shawl before it becomes really very fierce. So she removes the shawl, and when she does it, the shawl just escapes her, and it starts flying. It starts flying towards the sea, because that's where the wind is blowing, and it just goes whoop right there, and she runs behind it, because she says, oh my God, I let it go. And as she runs behind it, there, the man, the husband who has been fishing, he looks at the shawl coming up, and he thinks, oh my God, this is something very important for my wife, because I saw her putting it back in that casket. So I think it's so important for her. And he jumps and he gets hold of that shawl before it flies higher. But that's the time when she sees him and she says, don't touch it. But he's already touched it. And what happens is the colors slowly start getting into him. And the colors just start pouring into him. And he is slowly changing. And he's growing feathers. And he's growing a beak. And the blue and green, which is most part of the shawl, gets into his skin completely. And he's growing short feet. And he's becoming a peacock. And that's when she sees him and she says, oh gosh, I told him not to touch it, but then she wakes up and she sees that the shawl is still melting down to his legs. And she goes and catches the brown part of the shawl. And as she catches that brown part, she is becoming a peahen. So the peacock and the peahen on the shores. And so people say that on a rainy day during the Navratri festival, you will find most of the time the peacocks along the shore doing ow, 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 calling out to his mate. So this is one of the stories from the Garo tribes. So I went to Scotland and I had to tell a story at the Scottish Storytelling Festival. So when I went there, I did tell the story because I just heard it and it was still in my heart. And after I finished the story, there was a lady called Linda Williamson. And she came and she said, oh my God, that's a beautiful story of transformation. And I said, yes. Maybe the man was willing, isn't it? He was open to being a peacock. What do you say? I said, yeah, great. Must have a large heart to do so. And then she said, I would like to sing a song for you. Okay. And I also wish to share a story. So we walked to this beautiful place called the Loch Ness. They call it the Loch Ness, must have been beautiful loch, the lake. And we sat near the lake and absolutely pure, crystal clear water, cold. And there was just this one little bench and rock. So we sat there and she started playing the guitar. And she sang a song for me before she started the story. She said, I want to share a story from my husband's book of stories. That is his treasure trove of stories, because he was a traveling storyteller. I said, oh. So there she shared the story. And she said, can you see there? And I saw a log cabin. And there was just this one cabin. And you can imagine the meadows, the forest, the green, virgin forests. Hardly anyone had ventured into it. And tall trees, even the oak was there. And some of them were dying. And so she said, there was this woodcutter. And this woodcutter had terrible teeth. And according to standards of human beings, very ugly. He had a very distorted face. And he had a hump on his back. And so they called him the hunchback. But he was a woodcutter. And it was those days when there were no electricity that he would come out from his cabin, open the door. And of course, he had an axe. And what would he do with the axe? Only the trees that were dying. Because he had a lot of respect for the forest and the trees. And so all this wood he would collect. And as he was cutting the forest, there would be the owl would say, hello, good morning. And then there would be the deer that would come very slowly and rub herself against him and go. And there was the robin which would come and sit on his hat. And the squirrel that would climb up and down all over, saying, hi, 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 hi. So these were his friends. And as he cut that wood, he picked all the blocks of wood and he would put it on his that trolley and he would go through the forest. And as he went through the forest, people would be waiting for him, of course, because everyone needed the log for their fire and for the light. So they all came, but people are people everywhere. They would say, look at that woodcutter, isn't he ugly? Look at his teeth that comes out protruding. And at the back, he has a hump that also protrudes. Yeah. Look at that man, but we have to buy his wood, don't we? So they would be quiet. They would pay him a penny or two and take that wood and again mock at him. Yeah, that ugly man. Now, this woodcutter could not speak. And so it was very fascinating because he never reacted. He didn't say anything back to them. And he had his job done because he had to sell all his wood and he gave away all his wood. And he would take that trolley back into the woods. And as he was tired, through that woods, a song would come. Someone was singing. Rest for a while now, the night is young. Time is short and the road is long. Tell me a story, I'll sing you a song. For tomorrow the road will be calling us all. Take back that barrel. And soon he would sit on a rock beside this beautiful lake where there was just one single swan. And she was so graceful. And she was the only one. She was like the owner of this lake. And she spread her wings as she beautifully glided, pushing the waters up and down. And he would watch her with awe. The owl would say, hi, good evening. And the squirrel would climb up on his shoulder and the robin on his hat. And all the animals and birds, some of them would say hello, but he just kept looking at that swan. And he would throw a little crumb or two as he gave food to all the birds and animals, and they loved him. But the closer he wanted to go to the swan went farther back, away from him, turning her back. And he wondered why. But then he was tired. And as the twilight, the gray sky disappeared, and the stars began to come up into the sky, he would go back to his cabin and he would, and it would shut. And he would lie on his front because he had this hump on his back. He slept well, and every morning it would be the same thing, getting out, cutting, taking the wood, selling them, coming back, and watching the swan. And one day it so happened that the door never opened, and he was sleeping. And then after a while, he started coughing. So the robin heard him. And he had a small window, like a ventilator, right on top. And she went on top and she saw that he was still lying and he hadn't woken up from sleep and he was coughing a lot. So she sent word to everyone in the forest. She said, you know, he's not well, he's not well. And the entire forest, including the spirit of the tree, said, he's not well, he's not well, he's not well. Everyone was concerned that he was not well. 3 days passed, and now the owl, who seemed to be the king of the birds, called everyone, the birds mainly, and said, let's all get together for the sake of man. And they all came together. And the owl said, we may be enemies of each other, but we're all here for the sake of this man. Let's drop all our enmities and think together. What can we do? What is the reason that he is not well? Now they all spoke a little bit, discussed, and then the swallow said, I think it's Her Highness. What? Yeah, it's it's her, isn't it? Now, the owl said, what can we do? And the swallow said, you know what? She can't speak or she can't hear. That swan. Oh, so let me go and hover and whisper something to give her the message. And so all the birds agreed that the swallow would go and do this to the swan. So now the swallow went, and all the birds were watching because they wanted to know what would happen after that. And suddenly they saw the swan turning to the front, and she was coming closer and closer to the shore. And all the birds, including the deer and the monkeys, watched. And they all watched the swan. She was a trumpetier swan. And she suddenly got up on her feet and she started walking towards that cabin. And then with a beak, she opened the door and she walked up the 2 steps as she entered his room, where our woodcutter was lying still on his front, the hump on his back. And then she looked at him. But the other birds, they were wondering what's happening. Now, the BBC person for us was our robin, isn't it? So he went right on top and he said, I know, I can tell you from here, she's entered, she's looking at him, she's looking at him, and oh, she's put her beautiful neck around his neck. Oh, she's put his neck around his neck and he's slowly turning and the hump is straightening. Oh my God, it's straightening now. And he's turning and he's looking at her and she's looking at him. And then her feather is falling on his chest. And there's another feather that is falling on his chest. And the robin didn't continue. And so all the others were wondering what happened. And what was actually happening inside is the feathers were slowly growing. And just like that peacock, the woodcutter grew feathers. And he was becoming a beautiful swan. He had his beak, and of course, no humpback, and beautiful webbed feet, but very nice. And she gave him one look because now she recognized him. And so she went ahead, and behind he followed. And all that the birds and animals saw was the door opening. And they saw one swan and behind another one. And they instantly knew who it was. And so both of them went down the steps and into that beautiful lake. And she went splash. And behind another splash. And just as they started swimming together, the second swan, which is the woodcutter swan, slowly turned. Because rest for a while now, the night is young, time is short, and the road is long. Tell me a story, I'll sing you a song. For tomorrow the road will be calling us all. Waited for that song to be over and soon joined his mate. And so they say, the trumpety swans, they build their nests in the lake. When there are trumpety swans, there are no other birds because they actually go to all ends of the lake and they can be seen from any distance. And as Linda completed the story of yet another transformation, I watched two swans in the water on that beautiful, silent evening as she sang this song on the guitar and ended it. The stars did come up in the sky and the woods were getting dark as we returned to our homes. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So, yeah, I think another thought that I felt that we have parallel stories. And in our ancient traditional parallel stories around the world, we all have to be ready for this transformation, isn't it? To let go. Especially, I think, as senior citizens. Rather than doing the reverse of accumulating more and holding on to our grudges and enmities. And no matter what's happened, just let go. And I think we can become a swan, we can become a deer, we can become a leaf, anything, when we are able to let go. I think I'll end here.
Yes, thank you. It
Thank you
was
so much.
beautiful. You know, when you ended that story, I could feel the silence of the lake. So thank you. And, you know, because we have so many seniors with us online, and I think so many of us have a story to tell because all our
Absolutely.
lives are stories. And
Yes.
each life is so different from the other life.
Very true.
You know,
Very true.
but again, like you said, we have so many inhibitions in speaking about it, in talking, in, you know, how do we emote? How do we share all of this? We know it, but we don't know how to say it. So when you do your training, is there, you know, can people contact Kathalaya? How
Sure.
is it done?
In
How
fact,
is it done?
we have our website, which is www.kathalaya.org and kathalaya@gmail.com, the best way to communicate with us. We also have a WhatsApp message, number. It's in our Kathalia's WhatsApp number. And if you go to our website, you will have that also, 8277389840. Maybe I can put it in the chat box.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yes, please.
so.
Yeah, because there's so many stories, which are lost.
Yeah. So 8277389840 is the best way to think, and www.kathalaya.org. And we have the next, actually, I think you're based in Gurgaon, right?
Yeah, we're based in Gurgaon.
Yeah, so the next course that we are having is in Delhi, in South Delhi, which is October 30th and 31st. It's a Saturday. I will be there.
Okay.
So I personally train for the beginners course. We have another one, which is the diploma course. We recommend that people do first the beginners and then the diploma. But now we are also taking people directly. But the diploma course is a residential course. And it is from October 13th to 17th at Bangalore. We do the residential course only in Bangalore. Those details also, if somebody wants to come, it's perfectly fine. They can also come and do, it'll be a change of place. Environment is wonderful. It's called the Fireflies Ashram, and we have it here for 4 days. So that's another lovely experience. But the beginner's course, I do it personally everywhere. So I'm going to do one on 30th and 31st in Delhi. And I'm doing a 3-day one in the Himalayas in Satkol the following week itself, November 1st.
Where did you say
Satkol? Satkol.
Okay.
Satkol. So it's a Himalayan writing retreat. So if you go to the Himalayan writing retreat and write to them, or you can write to us also, then again, that's a residential beginners course. So people can stay in it's got a beautiful view of the mountains. It's wonderful to be there. It gives a different ambience to learn also about storytelling. So
yeah,
that happens in the Himalayas, November 1st week.
Oh, lovely.
So these are all upcoming courses. And I think it's fun. I've never had, I must thank God for this. I've not had any negative kind of comment so far. People have always enjoyed the course, and they've always left saying, we feel transformed. Yeah, I think most people say it's more than storytelling. So I try to bring a lot about life, because I think storytelling is closest to what life is. It's just getting your heart out, listening with your heart, right? So I tell them a lot of things on life. We share a lot of things on life while we do this residential course. So
yeah, and like you said, as we go older, just the ability to let go.
So important.
Very important to just let go.
Whereas we try to do the reverse. I think many people do the reverse, saying that we need to do this, which we have lost out. This, we need to get what we lost out. We didn't get it when we were young, so I need this and I need that. But I think this is a time to say, what is constant is change. And nothing will be the same at any phase of life. So we will always be losing something, but we'll always be also gaining something. So it's nice to see I feel it's like a tree. The senior citizens are like trees full of fruits, and it's so ripe and beautiful. So don't yearn for the plant. Don't yearn for that plant which is still growing. It's not still completely bloomed, and we've crossed those stages. And you're standing there, the trunk, and that so beautiful, isn't it? And we should try now to be part of that forest rather than going back to being a plant. I think that's what we have to learn from nature. I always feel that, we need to let go and to shed.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
Mamita.
Geeta ji, for
Thank you,
being with us
Mamita.
today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for this opportunity. Bye-bye.